Today's video, we're going to talk about letting other people dictate your choices. I think it's one of the things that a lot of people do in the beginning, especially, is they allow other people to influence what they're doing, especially in a negative way, in the sense of when I tried to stop smoking, a lot of times it was my friends who would convince me to go back on. This is especially so when you're drinking. You'll find this a lot where people are saying to you, look, you have to enjoy yourself in this life. There's no harm in one. There's no harm in having the occasional drink. A lot of the time what they're doing is they're excusing their own drinking. They don't want to see you stopping drinking alcohol because they're reflecting your decisions back on themselves. So the number one thing to understand about this is that you can't do anything about what other people are thinking. You can't change their minds. I mean, you can attempt to change it. You might go a lot of the way in changing their minds. But like I say, their choices are based around, or their thinking, their ideas are based around what they want to do. They're based around what they're doing. They're based around their habits. They're based around their behaviors and ideas and, their thoughts in general, their emotions. A lot of the time you'll find that there is a negative emotional reaction to you stopping, because when you go to make a change, a significant change in your life, it, as I say, it reflects back onto the person, and it starts them thinking about the process themselves, and that in turn can generate an emotional reaction. And a lot of the time it's not a positive emotional reaction. It's not like, oh yeah, let's go and do this, like you'll see sometimes. I was watching a program the other day about climbing Everest and the difficulties, and this guy was talking about the queues that are waiting now to get up to Everest when you get to the top, and people are going that slow that they're putting other people's lives in danger. And he said one of the biggest problems is that it used to be that you would never even think about going to Everest until you'd worked your way up. So you've gone through a lot of different mountains, and you worked your way up peaks so that you got your body used to dealing with the change in atmosphere, that your body was just, you built your body up to that stamina level that you needed to get there. I mean, he was talking about 20 years, between 15 and 20 years of being a mountain climber before you should even attempt to do something it's the tallest mountain in the world. So I don't think it's the most difficult one, certainly the tallest one. But he was saying that anyway, a lot of people were watching videos about Everest. A lot of these minded people who had the frame of mind that they wanted to get out there and have adventures, and they were attempting to climb Everest with less than a year's experience, which is complete madness. A lot of people are going to get killed doing that. What I'm saying is, that's a sort of a positive spin on things, where they look at somebody else doing something and they say, right, well, this is making me having a positive emotional reaction. That's an extreme interpretation of that, but you get what I'm saying. Most of the time when people are stopping drinking alcohol, though, you will generally get a sort of a negative emotional reaction to people. So the main question that you should ask yourself is, what do you want? What is your reality? My reality when I stopped drinking alcohol was I was getting pains on my side. I had lots of digestive problems. Mostly it was the way that I was emotionally reacting to not seeing my son anymore. We'd left my son in Ireland as we moved to Spain. We were there so I saw him maybe 3 times a year, and it was on those times that I saw him that we were celebrating, and I knew that every time we'd met together, if I was going to continue to be a drinker, this was going to be our life, me and him. So that wasn't the relationship that I ever envisaged for myself or my son. So that changed my mind about it. It also made me think about myself as a drinker. It made me think about myself as a father and a drinker, and how that was influencing him in turn. So that sort of brought me a feeling of emotional turmoil, a deep sense of pain. And other people cannot see that. You're never going to get other people to experience that for you. They can't feel your pain. They can't feel your emotions. They don't feel how alcohol is affecting your life. They don't see it from the same perspective in terms of your thinking. They can't feel your physical pain, and they don't have your life. They're not living your life, so they can't see it from that. So they're always going to see it from their picture, from their perspective. When people don't have your concerns, when people can't see from the same perspective as you, it can really alter how they're seeing things. But no matter how altruistic you are in your life, no matter how much I thought that I needed to be a better father to my son, and that, translated for me as stopping drinking and stopping doing a lot of the things that I was doing in my life that were then transferring across to bad behaviors or negative behaviors in him. I had to look after myself, because I had to, you've really got to turn inwards. So you're going from, I suppose, drinking alcohol is a negative thing anyway. It's a very inward turning thing. People say, well, it's socializing, but it's not. It's only having an effect on you. As you get drunk, the feeling is yours and yours alone. And the more you drink, the more insular you become. So you have to really turn your mind on yourself, not your emotions. But as I said before, it's thinking over emotions. So you're rationalizing, not rationalizing, but you're using your reason to understand your emotions. And you're reflecting on what's happening in your life. And that's the only way that you can really do it, is to turn that spotlight back on yourself, turn the light up, and start to see your life and yourself and your behaviors for what they really are. Because if you don't do that, you're not going to have success. It's easy to listen to other people. It's one of those things, it's easy to go back to your old behavior, because that's what everything is pointing to. Those habit pathways are going to be trying to get you going back to your old behavior, because that's what you're used to. And it's difficult to change. It's not difficult to understand the concept of stopping drinking alcohol, but it's difficult to put that into practice. We see that everywhere. I see that all around me today. You see people who are, it's much easier to pick up an outside cause like environmentalism or racism or something like that, and focus your mind and your energies on that, because it's something that you can come home and you can turn off at night. And you don't have to worry about that. But if you focus back in on yourself and in on your own behaviors and how you can improve your own life, that's a difficult thing to do, because it's very nuanced, and you've got to get down into the nitty-gritty of things. You've got to pull yourself apart almost before you can put yourself back together, and that takes it takes a lot of courage to do that. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of hard work. But it's really truly the only thing that's going to give you the results that you want. You might get the high moralistic viewpoint from attacking things with, like the big world view, but you will have a hollow feeling underneath it all, because the things that are really important to you, underneath it all, that you're letting slip. But to get back to the original point of this, there's no real advantage at all to allowing other people to dictate what you're going to do, unless their views are aligned with your own goals. And I'm not talking here about, I'm talking here about adults here. I'm not talking about looking at children, your own children, and you're saying, well, I have to do something for them, because, that's not the kind of, I'm talking about other adult thoughts. So even the people that are closest to you, like your partner. Esther, one of the first things she said to me, as I've said multiple times, was, I'm not stopping drinking alcohol. And she continued to drink, but she did her best to try and, especially in the first while, to try and keep it away from me. But, it sort of, it was one of those things that really helped me, but it was something that I had to do myself. You've got to face up to these things yourself, and no matter what is happening, you've got to have that commitment to doing it for yourself. It's in these commitments that you're going to find the greatest satisfaction. Like I said before, when you're committed to something which is outside of yourself, no matter how grand you think it is in your own mind, if you're not looking after the basics in your own life, if you're not committed to your own life, then it's a very shallow thing to have. It's only when you pick up the burden of yourself and your own existence and your own well-being. I found that one of the biggest things that ever happened to me, the biggest changes in my life, was when my son was born, because you're taking on this huge responsibility for somebody else. And it depends on how you look at that responsibility. A lot of people have a kid and they think, oh my God, my life's over. This is such a commitment. I don't want this commitment. Or, they look at it in a negative way. I looked at it and I said to myself, not literally in words, but that's the way I felt, was thankfully now I've got something that I can get behind that's going to make me committed to growing in a certain direction. Do you get what I mean? It was a burden that I welcomed, because before that my mind was just everywhere. I didn't have that one cohesive direction for my life. And my son has been a huge direction for me ever since he was born. So I know I'm going off point here, but it's when you have a goal for yourself and you have you're committed to achieving that goal. Once you can find your reasons and your motivations for doing that, it's very difficult to. It's very hard for you to allow other people to get back into that, if you get what I mean, to affect that. But if you haven't got that reason, if you haven't got that ultimate goal why you're doing this, then it's the easiest thing in the world to say to yourself, yeah, well, I'll listen to you. Don't worry about it. I'll go and have a few pints now. Sure, I can try again next week. Doesn't matter, and it all matters, because the more that you quit on yourself. There's failures because failures happen. Some shit just happens sometimes, and that's just it. But when you quit yourself, when you decide yourself that, I'm not going to do this now. I'm going to quit now, and I'll go next week. I'll do it next week. Then it can lead you into a repetitive frame of mind that is a downward spiral, because the next time it makes it easier for you to do it, and the next time it's easier again. And this just keeps going forwards. Anyway, look, I'm going to leave it there for today. I'm Kevin O'Hara for Habits Unplugged. We try and help people to stop drinking alcohol and to build best possible versions of themselves, to start living life. One of the first things that you can do for yourself is to stop drinking alcohol. Keep that alcohol out of your mouth. Take care of yourself, and I'll speak to you again soon. Onwards and upwards. Bye now.